I'm sure you all have lots of questions. We'll try and answer them as much as possible. If we can't, please email them to sascontract@bma.org.uk. So, Amit, can you take the next question, please?
Thank you, Rajesh. So the question is, if the contract is rejected at referendum, can NHS employers implement this anyway as they did for junior doctors? The answer is no. The BMA has negotiated the introduction of two new contracts, a new specialty doctor contract and specialist grade contract. And NHS employers have not given any indication that they would be imposing the contracts in case the contract was rejected at the referendum. Also, given the level of investment attached to contract reform, it is unlikely that there is any benefit for employers to introduce the contracts without the BMA's agreement. Employers locally could choose to use the new specialist contract for roles that would be opened at a local level, like they do with the local associate specialist contracts.
Thank you. Next question to Radhakrishnan.
Thank you. Why have we not agreed 1.5 SPAs for the new contract as set out in the SAS Charter? And how can we justify that consultants are given more time? Well, the SAS Charter makes a recommendation, but is not a contractual requirement. We would certainly consider it best practice for individuals to receive greater than one session of SPA time. However, the contract sets a minimum that is required by all. This is the same as under the 2008 contracts. However, what we have negotiated is that the contract will now explicitly state that the minimum of one session of SPA time required by the contract is to be used for job planning, appraisal, and revalidation only. While we sought to negotiate an increased minimum number of SPAs, research analysts from both parties reviewed the anticipated costs of increasing the minimum from 1 to 1.5, and it was under the circumstances unaffordable within the funding available for these negotiations. Unlike SAS doctors, consultants do not have a contractual minimum of SPA time written into their terms and conditions. While the BMA's model contract states that there will typically be a 7.5-2.5 split, we know that this is not always the case and are aware of a number of consultants who receive 1.5 SPAs or less.
Next question to Uchola, please.
Thank you. The question is, how is the pay point you are placed on decided if you choose to move to the new contract? And is this subject to managers? The pay point of those who chose to transfer to the new contract is determined by their pay on 31st March 2021. The pay journey for specialty doctors are set out in the framework agreement on our webpage, bma.org.uk/SASNext, as well as the pay explainers set out there. The specifics will also be set out in the contract and accompanying guidance. There will not be any managerial discretion as it is a system based on existing pay and experience.
Thank you. Lawrence, can you take the next question, please?
Yes, thank you. So the next question. Is the BMA entitled to make changes to individuals' terms and conditions of service? So the BMA is entitled to make changes to nationally agreed terms and conditions of service on behalf of all individuals working under those T's and C's. That is the nature, really this is the nature of being within a trade union and that trade union being recognised for collective bargaining purposes, national contracts. However, we're not really talking about making direct changes to existing doctors' terms and conditions. If the contract package is approved at referendum, we'll be introducing new national contracts for new starters and offering existing doctors an individual choice of whether or not to move to the new contracts and therefore their new terms and conditions of service.
Thank you. So the next question is, did the BMA consult with membership about what they wanted from these contracts? Yes, before we entered negotiations, we conducted an extensive survey in 2019 to seek our members' views on what they would want to see from a new contract. The results of this survey were used to develop our mandate for negotiations. It was based on this mandate and through further discussion and deliberation amongst the SAS committees that the heads of terms for these negotiations were approved and the committee's plan for negotiation was produced. Next question to Amit, please.
So the question is, will the title specialist not cause confusion at the GDC and GMC who hold the specialist register, hold the specialty registers? So the term specialist is not protected in law. This means someone does not need to be on the specialist register in order to have the title specialist. The GMC were approached during the negotiations and have confirmed that they have no concerns with the application of the term specialists for this cohort of doctors.
Thank you. Next question to Radhakrishna.
Thank you, Rajesh. Can I move to another trust and remain an associate specialist? As the National Associate Specialist grade closed in 2008 and 9, you would need to agree with your prospective employer that they would continue to employ you under the 2008 Associate Specialist contract. The creation of the new specialist grade doesn't have any specific bearing on this. It would always have been at the employer's discretion to continue offering a grade that has been closed nationally.
Thank you. Ujjwala, can you take the next question, please?
Thank you. The question is, if the new contract is implemented on 1st April 2021, is the incremental date going to be on 1st April for everybody, or do we carry on with our current incremental dates? No, everyone will retain their existing incremental dates, but this will now be called the pay progression date. For new entrants to the NHS, the pay progression date will be the date that they commenced employment in the grade. Thank you.
Next question to Lawrence, please.
Thank you. So the next question, will the Associate Specialist contract be negotiated further? So the National Associate Specialist contract has been closed since 2008-2009. Really, this means that it is not negotiated or refreshed further. Focus on these negotiations has been to create a new senior SAS grade in order to fill the gap that currently exists.
Okay, so the next question is, does this contract apply to those on the old pre-2008 Associate Specialist contract? So doctors on national terms and conditions of service in 2008 Associate Specialist and pre-2008 Associate Specialist grades are both given the choice to transfer to the 2021 Specialist grade contract under this deal. Next question to Amit, please.
Thank you, Rajesh. So the question is, what incentive is there for trusts to create the new specialist posts? Will we have to compete with other candidates if trusts convert specialty doctor posts to specialist posts? So a survey conducted by NHS employers during the negotiations showed that the overwhelming majority of trusts in England intend to open up the specialist grade roles. However, the concern is understandable. We have been clear with employers that we cannot continue the current situation where a dedicated specialty doctor is working at a senior level of responsibility and competence, but they have no opportunity to progress to a higher grade. As we have noted, the BMA will be producing guidance to support members in having conversations with the employers to ensure that they are being remunerated at a level appropriate to their work, and to remove the financial incentive for employers not to make a specialist post available because they already have a specialty doctor delivering that work at a lower cost. We hope that we can help to address this by making clear the distinction in roles and responsibilities between a specialty doctor and a specialist. A specialty doctor should not be expected to perform the role of a specialist unless they are acting up. If a specialty doctor is regularly performing work at a specialist level, we would hope that with the BMA support, a clear case could be made that the employer has the need to create a specialist post. This will require ongoing work from the BMA, and we are committed to ensuring that SAS doctors are given reasonable opportunities to progress within this new career framework. By creating the new national specialist grade, there is a far greater prospect now for such progression than there was in the status quo, where no senior national contract existed. Finally, on your point about converting existing specialty doctor posts to specialist posts and requiring those existing specialty doctors to effectively have to apply for their own jobs, the situation will be no different to any restructuring redundancy situation in which the employer will have to prove that these posts are no longer required, that there has been a fair consultation, that alternate employment was offered, redundancy payments, arrangements are made, etc., etc. Apologies. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Radhakrishnan, can you take the next question, please?
Yeah, thank you. How does the new contract affect those employed on trust associate specialist contracts or SAS doctors on a local contract? The answer is trust grade doctors will unfortunately not be offered a choice in these negotiations. From the outset, the Department of Health and Social Care have been very clear that their mandate and the funding for the contract reform does not cover this group of doctors. All we can do, and what we hope we have done, is create a contract that is attractive for both employers and these doctors so that the local agreements can be reached for them to be placed on these contracts.
Next question to Ujjwala, please.
Thank you, Rajesh. The question is, have both the contracts been signed off by DHSC? Yes. The contract package covering both the 2021 specialty doctor contract and the 2021 specialist contract have been approved in principle by the Secretary of State to be offered to SAS doctors in England. The final approval will come following the result of the BMA's referendum. Thank you.
Lawrence, can you take the next question, please?
Yes, thank you. So the next question, why has plane time been extended to 9 p.m. on weekdays? So, as we've already noted, this was a red line for employers. Any contract that they were willing to offer absolutely required the change to the definition of plane time. we decided that ultimately the funding and the contractual improvements that we'd achieved elsewhere, such as the new safeguards, were in some way toward mitigating the impact of this change, especially in the light of individual choice that people will be offered. Now, whilst these changes make it less expensive for an employer to schedule SAS doctors to work between 7 PM and 9 PM on a weekday, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be working between those times, in the same way that there are no restrictions at the moment to whether you are asked to work in these hours. Any changes, of course, will, as ever, remain subject to agreement through a job planning process. Now, any savings generated at plain time definitions were factored into the overall pay modelling so that the funding for the contract package still represents a net pay increase. Thank you.
Okay, so the next question is, will moving to the new contract change my job plan? Now, if you were to seek a transfer to the new contract within the window of opportunity, you would first undergo a job planning process where you would discuss your working arrangements with your employer. This may result in some agreed changes or it might not. If after that job planning meeting, you had concerns about any proposed changes to your job plan, you would be entitled at that point to decide to remain on your current contract. Next question to Amit, please.
Thank you, Rajesh. So would joining the new contract agreement affect an existing educational CSER contract already in place? And if so, in what way? So there is no particular reason that transferring to a new contract would have any bearing on a separately held contract for undertaking CSER. However, if you have concerns, we would recommend that you raise this issue with the employer with whom the educational CSER contract is held for clarity before making your choice during the window of opportunity.
Okay, so Radhakrishna, can you take this next question, please?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. What is the situation in Scotland? Well, to answer that question, BMA Scotland and the Scottish SAS Committee have decided to remain separate. While initial discussions had begun, these have been deferred during the pandemic. So we will have to wait and see.
Okay. Next question to Ujjwala, please.
Thank you, Rajesh. The question is, why do SAS grades within 3 years of experience end up with £1,781 less money in 2023-2024, according to the pay explainer? So the table 1 in the pay explainer, which is available on our website, first shows the basic pay journey of specialty doctors on the old 2008 contract, who chose to transfer to the new specialty doctor contract over the 3 years of the deal period. In other words, through 23-24, table 1 secondly shows the pay journey that the same doctor may experience if they remain on the old SD 2008 contract, and if the government awards 1% annual pay rises over the next 3 years. This assumption is necessarily hypothetical. The actual pay rises awarded to those who remain on the old contract could be higher or lower.
Thank you. So the deal represents a higher basic pay rise over the deal period than remaining on the old SD 2008 contract for nearly all starting years of experience, with the assumption of 1% annual pay awards. I've just mentioned and it's been factored in. The only exception is for specialty doctors who have completed only 2 years of experience on transfer to the new contract, the third line of the table 1, as highlighted by this question. However, this is a function of time that same doctor would be expected to progress to the third point on the new SD contract, SD pay scale, on their progression date in 2024-25, significantly surpassing their expected basic pay level by then, and they remained on the old contract. Early in their career, this doctor would also benefit from being able to reach the top of the pay scale more quickly, as well as other beneficial changes to their terms and conditions, including the safeguards and increases to the on-call availability supplement. We believe that the cumulative investment in SAS doctors under this deal is likely to be more generous than what would be awarded by the government through the DDRB process. But the funding under this deal must cover both pay and beneficial terms and condition changes. So, next question, and I request Amit to take this, please.
After the 3 years, will the new contracts be subject to the usual DDRB process? The answer is yes. Once the multiple year pay deal has ended, the contracts will be subject to the usual DDRB processes, where the body receives evidence from various groups, including the BMA, and makes recommendations about pay rises relative to inflation, which the government then decide whether to implement.
Thank you. Radhakrishna, can you take the next question, please?
Thank you, Rajesh. Will there be clearly defined parameters for the specialist roles that are nationally available? The answer is the generic capabilities framework, which sets out the necessary requirements for the specialist grade, has been jointly agreed by the BMA, the Academy of Medical Royal Colleges, and the NHS employers. It will be published on the BMA website shortly.
Okay, next question to Ujjwala, please.
Thank you. What happens after the window of opportunity closes? An employer and a SAS doctor can agree that they be allowed to transfer to the new contract outside of the window of the opportunity. However, they would not be eligible to receive backdated pay increases to 1st April 2021 if the request to transfer has not been made within that 6-month window. There are also exceptions to the 6-month window for anyone who is out on long-term absence during that period, such as those on sickness leave or parental leave.
Thank you. Next question to Lawrence, please.
Thank you. So the next question is, I'm at the top of the specialty doctor pay scale. What will my pay be if I move over to the new contract? So we've produced a pay explainer document, which should help you to understand what the pay increases could mean for you in transition. And this is available on the website, which is bma.org.uk/SASNEGS. Now, this document illustrates the impact on basic pay for current specialty doctors who choose the new specialty doctor contract at every level of current basic pay, and also shows the transitioning over to the new pay scales. Changes in the new contract, including the increased on-call availability supplements and the extension of claim time, mean that for working doctors whose working patterns attract additional elements of pay, the benefit of switching to the new contract may be better appreciated by considering total gross pay. The document therefore also provides a number of case studies to estimate this impact across the range of working patterns and experience levels. Now, details about basic pay journeys for those who choose to transition to either of the new contracts are also available in Annex A of the Framework Agreement, which is also available at the same website address. Thank you.
Thank you, Lawrence. And the last question, does this contract package offer any benefits for existing associate specialists? Well, the focus of these negotiations has been on ensuring that a senior SAS grade is open and to ensure that future SAS doctors can benefit from a career framework that offers recognition and reward. In terms of basic pay, over the short term, there may not be a financial benefit to moving to the new contract, although those that choose to move across will have their pay protected on a mark time basis. However, if you choose not to transfer to the new specialist contract, that would mean that you would not benefit from other aspects of the contract, such as the new safeguards or the increased on-call availability supplements. You will have to consider these features carefully and make the right decision for you. If the contract doesn't offer anything to you, we would urge you to instead think about other SAS doctors who might want to have the opportunity to work on these contracts, whether for the safeguards, the pay, or the career prospects. The only way for them to have that option is for you to vote in favor of the contract package. Thank you. That's it for today. If we still have any questions, please email it to sascontract@bma.org.uk. Thank you very much. And I would like to thank the whole team for their effort today. Thank you.